If future generations of law professors want to teach a class in what never to do, the belligerent and self-indulgent performance of Michael Van Der Veen, one of Donald Trump's impeachment lawyers, could provide a lot of the video content. But deep into his defense of the former squatter today, Van Der Veen had broken into a highly personal complaint. More than 140 law professors, including President Ronald Reagan's Solicitor General and co-founder of the Conservative Federalist Society, had sent a letter condemning the Trump team's arguments as frivolous, and this letter badly hurt Van Der Veen's feelings. The letter, he said, represented a direct threat to my law license, my career, and my family's financial well-being. A few hours later, Van Der Veen had erupted into the well of the Senate about the day he was having. "We are not having fun here," he said. "This is about the most miserable experience I've had down here in Washington, D.C." He said, "I watched this self-pity party from his own house, only a few miles north and west from the Capitol, attacked by a Trumpist mob on January 6th, and I thought, how on earth could a former squatter of the United States possibly have hired a team of douchebags to be this bad at law?" Trump advertises himself as a billionaire, which we know he's not. Certainly, he has raised tens of millions of dollars for his legal defense fund, but why did he not have good lawyers at his second impeachment trial? And yes, he is not an attractive defendant in many ways, but good lawyers regularly accept unattractive defendants anyway. The problem seems to be that Trump affirmatively prefers bad lawyering, or rather that he values good lawyering less than he values aggressive and truculent lawyers. And after all, Trump did not particularly need good lawyers at his impeachment trial anyway. He can count on the sufficient Republican votes in the Senate to acquit him anyway, even though we knew he was guilty, almost regardless of what any lawyer will do or say. So it probably will not matter much to Trump anyway that his lawyers often seem baffled, or ignorant, or untruthful, or incompetent. The former squatter is focused on the result, and that result was fixed in his favor before any proceeding began. But the bad conduct and poor quality of the Trump legal defense does matter in another way. This second impeachment trial, the second Trump trial, like the first, is a mighty constitutional and political moment. The trial has riveted the attention of millions of people this week and will surely hold that attention for decades to come. It has presented the country with images of the contending sides in this dispute, and one of those sides is the House impeachment managers, and it's composed of men and women of different backgrounds, ages, and experience, and yet all of the highest ability and professionalism. They conducted themselves with dignity and decorum, and they had prepared meticulously, and they studied the issues and the law, and they and their staffs curated a sprawling mass of material into a clear, coherent, and powerful narrative of events. On the other side were the three older men. They were ill-prepared and ill-informed, and unable to answer such basic questions, which were posed by Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, and then by Senator Mitt Romney, as well as when did the squatter Trump learn that the life of his loyal vice president was in danger. And one of those lawyers, Van Der Veen, often seemed to lose control of his emotions and his train of thought. Over more than 20 hours, the trial offered a sharp contrast between people who excelled at their jobs and people who floundered in their jobs, in that the trial aptly symbolized so much that has occurred over the 4 Trump years. Along with the corruption and the authoritarianism, the brutality and the bigotry, the Trump squadancy was characterized by persistent drip of slobberness and carelessness, and matters as minor as the frequent spelling errors in White House press releases, and as deadly as the horrifying mismanagement of the coronavirus pandemic. The Trump administration was staffed from top to bottom by people who were bad at stuff. The Scott Pruitts at the Environmental Protection Agency, the Richard Grenells and John Ratcliffes at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Matthew Whitakers at the Department of Justice, the Michael Flynn at the National Security Council, the Sebastian Gorkas and Jared Kushner's and Ivanka Trump's on the White House staff, which neither one of them were qualified to do those jobs anyway, but the administration's incompetence frequently rose from its malice. That was the coronavirus story. Trump interrupted the pandemic as basically he interpreted the pandemic as a criticism of himself, and he dealt with the pandemic the way he habitually dealt with criticism, by refusing to acknowledge its existence. But as often as not, the incompetence was just and only that, the blundering that resulted from people in over their heads, holding positions that they should never have held in the first place. The Trump administration, and its supporters endlessly railed against the disdain and condescension of their political opponents. In a June 2020 interview with the Wall Street Journal, Trump interpreted the basic precautions of mask wearing during a pandemic as a slight against him and his supporters, or sycophants as I like to call them anyway. In a column back in 1991, the commentator Chris Matthews memorably described the Democratic Party as the mommy part and the Republican Party as the daddy part, which really isn't. But daddy locks the doors at night and brings home the bacon. Matthews wrote, "Mommy worries when the kids are sick and makes sure that each one gets treated fairly. In this game, the daddy might be gruff and harsh, but at least he knew what he was doing, not really. But what happens, though, when daddy is manifestly clueless, when he bellows and bullies to compensate for his own inadequacies? That's where America often seemed to be during the Trump years, and that's how it was during the Trump trial. The squatter Trump regularly grumbled that the world was laughing at America. They were actually laughing at him. They think we are stupid. No, we think you're stupid. That's the thing about it. It was all the bitterness of a man who imagined that an unarmed they was thinking that those negative thoughts about him too. The first few weeks of the Biden administration have begun to correct the dismal national self-image that Trump promoted. Suddenly, America's science, technology, and management seem again to be leading the way. But yesterday, President Joe Biden announced that the United States had secured enough vaccine doses for 300 million Americans, and today the U.S. administered 2 million doses in a single day. Good at stuff, America is back after a long hiatus. So, something is fitting about the fact that the same day, February 12th, Trump's team put once again on national display a farewell image of a bad at stuff America. The squatter Trump associated his political party with all of his personal faults, including his trademark and snarling mismanagement. He hired lawyers who shared those faults, and tomorrow Republicans will have their the Republicans will have their last best chance to separate themselves from Trump. But whatever Trump party does, the country is separating from him. The ugly and inept performance of the Trump legal team broadcast to the world is a final spectacular view of what and whom a dynamic America is putting behind itself. But let's hope forever, but at least for now.